Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us at Refinitiv. My name is Mahmoud Khliefat and I'm a Global Director of Sales Readiness for Investment Banking. I'm joined today by Gal Dvir, my colleague from Customer Success Management. This is another one of our series on content, and we are very happy to walk through Workspace, our new flagship AI-driven platform today, using one of the deals that have been announced most recently. Just last week, we hosted at Refinitiv a Deals Intelligence webinar. In that webinar, we asked the audience to tell us about their sentiments for 2021 and what they think could be the drivers of M&A. 29% of the audience thought that in-market consolidation will be the main driver. Almost 16% thought that an industry-driven transformation will be the main driver. 11% thought mega deals will continue to be a very big theme. Between these three today, we have actually a deal that has been announced recently. This is an announced merger in Saudi Arabia between National Commercial Bank and Samba Financial Services. So, Gal, hi and off to you. Do you want to tell us a little bit more? How can we find the news about this deal?
Thanks very much, Mahmoud. So as you can see within Refinitiv Workspace, I've now opened up the page for Middle East and North Africa top news. What we'll try to do is go to our news monitor and search for significant news regarding NCB and Samba. Because at Refinitiv we curate news and we have an intelligent tagging system that shows you which company or which entity is involved in that news search. In that news story, it's very easy to search for specific types of news regarding those entities. So what I'll do now, rather than just show all news, I'm going to show news about NCB, and it allows me to search for that entity. And I want Samba as well. And I can also enter a topic such as mergers and acquisitions. And what you'll see here is the most recent news, just a live ticker of recent news for both these entities and the topic of M&A. And on the top here, we have what we call important news. And as you can clearly see here, here's the announcement for the upcoming merger. And if I click on that, I'll just be able to read the news stories. And of course, once I do have this story and others like it marked as significant developments for those entities, I can actually create alerts that will let me know whenever a news story for my other covered companies comes up.
That's excellent. But I know, and I'm glad actually you mentioned that at Refinitiv, we try to curate and customize the news for our customers. So I know there is an easier probably way or a nicer way, especially that for the audience knowledge. The background to this deal is that National Commercial tried to do another merger a year ago with another Saudi bank. So if we want to capture both of them at the same time, can you show us that through significant developments?
Certainly. So what we'll do here is we'll go have a look at National Commercial Bank, and I'll just bring up the search function just to show you how easy it is to find the data I need.
And a reminder to people as you do that, that's the launcher, right? So this is the shift control in space.
Yes, correct. This is just a keyboard shortcut to bring up the search tool. I can also use the search bar up here. It works exactly the same. And as I'm starting to search, the listed entities will start being suggested at the top. And what I'll be able to see first thing before I even go into the company page is a preview pop-up of how that company is performing, the latest regarding financial information, price performance, upcoming events and news. So that just immediately gives me a quick view of what has been happening with my client. Now let's go into the company's page proper. This is an overview page for National Commercial Bank. And if I wanted to see the significant developments under news and research, I would find it here. And here is where I can select different topics. So for mergers and acquisitions, I'll just type M, update the view. And what I'll be able to see here is both the new agreement for a merger with Samba And in 2018, 2019, the discussions about the merger with Riad Bank and the end of those talks as well.
Excellent. Well, I have another tip. Having been in this arena and having been an M&A FIG advisor before, what I know is that there has been some change in the directorships of Samba, which triggered Samba being put on a new strategy and a new path. So using the same significant development, is that an easy way to as well show this?
Certainly. So if I'm looking at Samba rather than NCB, I'll go to the same significant developments page. And in this case, I'll just look for officers and directors, officer changes. And as you can see here in 2019, they appointed a new chairman who may have decided to take the company in a different direction following the other deals not coming through.
Yeah, and he's a veteran of the industry, as I know, and it's quite interesting that we can get the news that easily. Now, what I want just to mention here, Gal, for the audience is that at Refinitiv, what we're trying to do is do an M&A prediction model. And with our labs, we're developing this. And what is nice about that is that it will take things like this into account. Deals in the sector that are happening with other targets, but also changes in directors sometimes, and the affinities and the sort of like track record of these directors and what they do as sort of a signal that an M&A could happen in the future. That's part of our new M&A prediction model, but that is still being produced by our labs and developed. But I'm glad you've shown us this. The significant developments feature is extremely powerful because when you're on the go and you want something very quick, you don't want to search, or be lost in the search. This is a very easy and targeted way of getting the topic that you need, the date, and then you get to the news that you want. That is really helpful. Thanks very much, Gal. One of the things that you and I spoke about in this series before was price and price performance, especially that this is an open market sort of public M&A. So how can Workspace actually give us an insight on the relative price performance and the merger ratio?
Certainly. So let's just jump right into a performance chart or pricing chart. And what I'll be able to do here is type the company I'm looking at, for example, National Commercial Bank. That's going to give me a simple chart, which I can then overlay with research reports written about the company, as well as any investor briefs or significant news mentioned, and how that may have affected the share price. And then for comparison, I can add Samba. And you can see the white line here. These are just, I believe, Saudi Riyal price performance on two different axes. I can, though, change this from absolute price to rebasing just to see their relative performance in percentages. And I can also add any other peers within that sector or that region, as well as the relevant index. So that's going to give me, I believe that's the Tadawil main index in comparison to my company.
Exactly. And it's interesting because as well, people can add the Riad Bank and see, go further in the time series and see when that merger was announced and what happened to that merger ratio or the relative performance, and then how that broke down and then what happens after. And there you go. So that's quite excellent.
Certainly. I can also, sorry.
Yes, please go ahead.
I can also see the intraday price and volume, in this case for NCB. So as announcements come out, I might be able to see what investors are doing and how the price is performing versus the trading volume as well. And if this was being traded on more than one venue, such as the Saudi Arabia Stock Exchange, I can also see a breakdown of where are those shares traded. Again, this is significant for publicly traded companies.
Absolutely. And I'm glad actually you brought that up. It is extremely important, especially in a public M&A like this one. And to take this further, what the labs at Refinitiv did, and you will remember this, there is something that we call the M&A arbitrage model. It is ready. and it is available as a feed for our customers. So if you're getting our deals feeds, you can easily add this to your services from Refinitiv. And it's a very powerful one because it shows exactly this. It shows the relative change between the two prices, the dynamics and the volumes behind it. It takes basically what you're showing here, Gal, to a further step to indicate what the advisors on the team on these deals can do if they want to salvage the deal, who to speak to, is the deal showing basically any signs of faltering, or if there are any investors that are not showing any signs of strength in there, and they can speak to them. It's a very powerful tool, and I really suggest that bankers who look and are involved into a big public M&A to use that tool. It's very analytical and it's very powerful in that sense. Okay, glad you brought all of this up. Let's move to the research because that's the other one where we can get a bit of sentiment. So I agree with you. Volume, price performance, news, what the investors are doing in the behind and the volumes, but also what the analysts, those experts in the industry, are saying about the deal. Can you show us a little bit on that?
Certainly. So once again, I'll use Refinitiv Workspace search tool, and it's a very handy tool because it allows me to search for specific topics and keywords mentioned in the research, just getting me that much more quickly to my results.
So what you're saying here is that instead of actually going into the company and going into the research and doing a search there, I could be actually working on a model or on the phone with a customer and just shift control space, get the launcher out, and then even get into the research. It's not only just searching a company, it's in depth into the research itself, right?
Exactly. I could close down Refinitiv Workspace completely and just be working on something else, and then just press Control Shift space on my keyboard and start typing National Commercial Bank, tab. I want to see research, tab. And now I'm being asked what kind of research do I want to see, which subjects, which date range, any keywords. In this case, I'll just start typing M&A, and that's going to come up as a topic. And I can either click my mouse or press enter on my keyboard, and that's going to come into the research page for that company with that topic of M&A right here. And as before, Mahmoud, as before, we can also add keywords to our research page, research search, just to see if the analysts have mentioned anything about the deal being accretive or dilutive, whether there's any specific synergies or any ratios that are affected.
Then we can assess the sentiment around the deal. Is it positive, or people welcoming it or not?
Certainly. And once you've done that, these are some of the results that have come up in the last 90 days. If I click on the title, I'll be able to get a preview of that research report before downloading it. And that's going to show me where my keywords are appearing in the document, on which exact page and how many times. So let's say I'm looking at accretive here. If I click on that, I get the context. So it's going to tell me the analyst's opinion, where that deal is accretive or dilutive to a certain metric such as EPS, or if there are any specific synergies mentioned. Here the words mentioned 5 times. That's going to give me where that the analyst thought that there are synergies for that deal. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. And then using the same token that we did with news, because this deal in specific has a background, which is the fact that there was that failed merger attempt with Riad Bank. So can we do the same with the research to see what the research said about the merger itself and its breakdown?
Certainly. Again, I'll bring up the search tool and let's put in NCB. Research. And this time I'll enter a keyword. And that's just going to be Riad Bank.
Yep.
And as you can see very quickly, the results are filtered based on my keyword right here. And I've actually got the same report here that I've just shown from Bank of America. So let me just click on that again. It does mention the Riad Bank merger as well. And clicking on this, in the section that is discussing whether this merger is strategically sound, it actually mentioned the failed merger.
Mm-hmm. But we still have the option of extending the 90 days to 2 years and look at the research that was published back then, right?
Yes, correct. So I'll be able to see research written about the Riad Bank NCB deal as it was happening and as it was called off. In this case, let's have a look at this one. NCB and Riad call it a day. Further consolidation elsewhere. And this was back in December 2019.
Excellent. Yep.
And I can enter any other keywords that I think are relevant, just to see what the analysts and the investors are thinking about that deal having not gone through.
That's great. Let me introduce another very specific thing about this deal is that the major shareholder sits on, there is one single shareholder that sits on both. And it's a major shareholder, not only from a percentage point of view, but from the fact that it happens to be the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia, the PIF. So can you do a little bit of an insights around this, please?
Certainly. So within either National Commercial Bank or Samba, I'll be able to look at the ownership tab, and immediately you can see that the PIF is a majority stakeholder here. And for Samba, I would expect to see the same. And here's PIF sitting at the top as well. So that tells us something about the forces driving the deal and how likely it is to succeed.
Precisely, exactly. And I like that, our ownership data is very advanced and very precise. It shows if they have been changing their stake recently and what's happening in there. And can we, by doing that, if you want to show us that, but then deep dive into the PIF itself, can we take a deeper look into it in its profile?
Certainly. So let's just click here on PIF. And that's going to give me the investor overview of PIF. Things such as equity assets in total, the latest filing dates, number of securities held, as well as a breakdown into the different sectors, as well as different locations. So I can see where those investments are going into. I've also got their recent activities, buys and sells, and their top holdings as of the latest filing. So you do always have clarity when this information was curated and whether there have been any changes since then.
It's perfect. You and I got carried away looking at these very specifics, but we started the call saying that in market consolidation, industry-driven M&A are the drivers here. And one of the things about this sector is that it's a very fragmented one. And if you look at the region, you start looking at other smaller, actually, economies in the GCC, like the UAE and Qatar, having national champions and big consolidated banks in terms of size and outreach. And that Saudi Arabia historically has been missing. So how can anybody doing any research around this uncover these conclusions or look at them, get these insights? Does the industry app work or help us in that sense?
Certainly, Mahmoud. So let's open the industry app. And what I've done here is I've basically taken all of the companies that we consider to be within banking and investment services within the Middle East.
Yep.
And I've charted them out based on the total assets held on the x-axis and the market cap or size of the company in the y-axis, as well as added a bubble size for company market cap. So as soon as that loads, we'll be able to see who are the major players in that GCC space. Apologies, that must be my internet connection slowing down a bit.
No worries. But it's worth adding that these are drop-down menus. So the analysts actually could choose whichever combination they want about this data, which I think is a very powerful thing.
Certainly, I can look at oil and gas companies as well as tech, etc., etc. But let's for now look at the
Here you
banking
go.
sector.
That's your chart.
Perfect. So what I'll be able to see here is, as I said, the further right we go is a larger number of assets. The further up is company market cap.
Yep.
And here you can see at the
So,
very
so
top
basically,
right.
people want to be exactly. So people want to be in the northeast of this graph. The further right, the further up you are. And who do we
Exactly.
have there?
So that's
Qatar
Qatar
National.
National Bank, exactly. So let's put a pin on that, color it in orange. You can also see FAB here, First
There
Abu
you
Dhabi
go.
Bank.
And it's interesting because FAB is the result of another mega merger that happened in the UAE very recently.
Certainly. What you'll be able to see here is the NCB lagging a bit behind in that regard. And around here is Samba Financial Group. So you can see there how their combined market cap and total assets might help them find those synergies that would actually make the combined entity, the combined bank, a very serious regional player, or at least that's what Saudi Arabia is hoping to achieve.
Yeah, very well said, Gal. That's exactly the point. And this is actually what the research that you have shown us using the keywords is talking about. They're talking about synergies. They're talking about being accretive. They're talking about re-rating the stock. They're talking about, that in-market consolidation that could create this national champion. And, in terms of, I remember one of the things that you were looking at, synergies in terms of funding and in terms of cost. So the profitability, will trickle down into profitability, re-rate the stock, enhance the market cap in that sense, and show them in a better position on this point. And who knows, might be the sort of like base for either more consolidation or regional expansion. That's to be seen for the future. But that's really powerful. That's very and very nicely plotted here. Thanks very much for showing this.
Thank you, Mahmoud.
All right. Well, I guess we're up against the hour, so that has been a very brief and interesting insight into the deal and how Workspace, using different features as we have seen today, can help the investment banking community, whether at the senior level or more junior level, get acquainted very quickly with any deal and with any company through very nice features. And what I want to double stress actually here is the launcher, which is very easy. It doesn't disrupt the workflow. It enhances the workflow. It is part of the workflow. And we can see on the launcher how smart the searches can be. It's not only just a search for a company, but also to go deeper into a research and find the keywords. Significant developments is another thing, Gal, that you have shown us. I think that's a very powerful tool for curating the news. News can be overwhelming. This is a really nice way of classifying it and getting topical when we're looking at the news. Price performance, but also what I love here is this bit on the on tying in the economics, on tying in the assets, the fundamentals to try and understand the rationale behind these deals. Once again, thanks very much, Gal. I appreciate this. And I want to thank our audience for this today. Thank you so much. And we will see you on another one of these series in the future with Refinitiv. Thanks and have a good day.